This is Richard Wolff for Democracy at Work, responding to another Ask Prof. Wolff question from our Patreon community. And this time I'm responding to a question from Tom. And Tom asks about something called the Great Reset from the World Economic Forum. The World Economic Forum wants to respond, wants to have a great reset of the global economy that accommodates the needs of all the various stakeholders in the capitalist system that is now dominant in the world. So Tom asks me to comment on this World Economic Forum Great Reset. My comment is that this is the same old, same old. In other words, this is the World Economic Forum, basically a spokesperson or spokes institution for global capitalism, committing itself to finding ways of coping with the pandemic and with the global crash in such a way as to maintain and indeed to strengthen capitalism. Capitalism is the beginning, the middle, and the end of what the World Economic Forum has been about and is about now. The Great Reset does not question and does not depart from what the World Economic Forum has been and intends to continue to be. That's why if you look through the literature of the Great Reset that has been produced so far, what's remarkable to me is the complete disinterest in, and indeed a kind of pretense that there is no alternative to capitalism, that the only way to pose a question about the pandemic or about the crash is to say, how can we fix capitalism so that it works better? This is what they're after, and in that they represent the dominant opinion of those who have led capitalism into this situation. So my comment shouldn't surprise you. I don't think that the only way to cope is by preserving and extending capitalism. I don't think that capitalism is worth preserving and extending because it has failed us. And you ought to begin your discussion, if you're honest and if you're open-minded, by asking not only how do we fix the system that failed us, but whether we ought to, whether the better way to go is not to a different, new, alternatively built system. Let me explain. One of the first things any economic system has to do, a measure of its adequacy, of its success, is whether that system takes care of, protects the public health. Sick people, dead people are a sign that an economic system hasn't done its job. That job may be difficult. The natural world presents us with all manner of challenges. It is the job of the economy, among other institutions we have, to deal with those challenges. We build a home to protect us against the rain and the cold and so on. We grow crops to take care of our needs to eat. And we set up a capitalist system also to protect our health. This system, in the United States especially, but throughout the capitalist world, didn't do that job well. And I'm being very polite. It is a disaster, especially in the United States, especially in the United Kingdom, and in a variety of other places. Capitalism as a system failed to prepare for the virus and failed to contain the virus for which it had been unprepared. we ought to ask the question, which the World Economic Forum cannot and will not do: to what degree is this a system failure? Let me put it another way. Capitalism is an unstable system. Every 4 to 7 years, throughout its history, across the world, it has had economic downturns. You know them by many names: recessions, depressions, busts, crashes, downturns, collapses. We can go on. We have many words because it's always with us. And the capitalist system knows this. Every history shows it. We knew that if it's on average 4 to 7 years, and if the last downturn was the subprime mortgage crisis of 2008, that we are overdue in the year 2020 for another crash. And then the worst nightmare of capitalism happened, that we had a crash at the same time as we had another social crisis, so that we had a double whammy. And that's what happened. In February, capitalism's downturn began. And in March, the pandemic arrived in the United States. Either one of those was a very formidable problem. For neither of them was capitalism prepared, even though we know that viruses are there as a danger. And we know that capitalism's instability has always been there as a danger. We weren't prepared. That's a sign of system failure. And when you have two of these, well, then it's not the American dream anymore, it's the American nightmare. And it's capitalism's nightmare.